So I call consistency the granny panties of book marketing. It's not sexy, but
No.
it's a necessary thing to have. It does the job. And so I wish authors would know that you have to keep telling people about it.
Welcome to Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Melanie Herschorn.
Yes, we do. It was a very interesting and fun interview.
She helps authors with their PR, and she talked to us about how to extend the book launch and building community with readers and relationships. And one of the big things we talked about was not to be afraid of oversharing.
Right.
So we talked about that a lot.
I'm good there. I'm good.
Most of us have a tendency to not share enough about our books because we just get tired of it.
Oh, about our books. I just overshared in general. Okay. Yeah.
Which is fine too.
Oh gosh. No, it was a fun interview and it was good. And yeah, she had some ideas that I hadn't thought of, and I thought it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's coming up. And we don't have any new supporters this week, but thanks to our continuing supporters. And we're still doing the Slack group for supporters on Tuesday and Thursday at 11 Eastern. And we will be doing it. This will go out October 2nd. So we will have done one the day before, and then we'll do one on the 3rd. And then we're going to take off the next week because we're out of town. Yeah, we'll be at a conference. So we'll be taking a break then. So if you want to join us, we'd love to have you.
So you said the Slack group, but it's the Sprint group for people in the Slack group. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And the link is in the Slack group.
Yes, exactly. That's what
there we go. Yeah. So, and if you want to support the podcast and join us, you can go to wishidknownforwriters.com/support to find the information there.
Yeah. And we do just appreciate our supporters so much. It lets us know you appreciate what we do, that you want us to keep doing it, and it pays for our time. So we appreciate it.
Yes, we really do.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of news that I saw that I was going to share. Did you see that Vellum is doing a new update, and it's got all kinds of cool stuff in it? Did you see that?
I heard something about that in Clubhouse, but I came in late, but everybody was real excited about it. So
yeah, I haven't tried it out yet. I just saw online some of the things they have. You can put emojis in now. So like if your characters are texting, you can put emojis.
Yeah.
And I think you can format the text like a conversation now, which is really cool.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of new trim sizes.
Yeah.
They can do more with list.
Yeah.
And so, I'm excited to use it. I haven't needed to be in there for a while. So we love Vellum.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and caution you against using emojis in your 1920s mysteries. But
okay.
That's just me. That's just me.
I might find a way to incorporate it somehow. Maybe a time travel one.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. So that was exciting news. And anything else going on with you?
Well, on the personal side, traded in a car, got a new car this week.
Yeah.
So getting used to that. My other one was a hybrid. I hadn't had a hybrid before. Loved the gas mileage. It had a tendency to we had a couple of times that it just stopped. Like hybrid system needed to be updated, and it really didn't get any warning. And both times, thankfully, I was not on the interstate because you have about 10 seconds before it just quits. And I was like, this is too scary.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to a good old gas car until we kind of get of course, it wasn't a Tesla. So maybe if it was a Tesla, it would have been better.
I'm sure if it were a Tesla, it would have been just a jewel.
Totally fine.
A jewel. Yeah.
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 And I'm so close to being done with my manuscript. Like I'm doing the final. I'm so close, but I have a book launch on the 1st and I've taken a break to do a bunch of promotion, and we're recording this on September 29th, which is Historical Mystery Day. Yeah. So I'm doing a bunch of stuff for that. So on Monday, I will get back to it and finish up.
Oh, that's great. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Big deal.
Yeah. What about you? What have you got going on?
Well, I'm working on something pretty big, but I'm not telling anybody. But
a top secret project.
I mean, when people hear what it is, they're going to go, Really?
I understand though, because once you announce it, then, you know.
And y'all know, when I talk about something, it's as if I've done it. And then I lose interest in doing it. So I'm just not talking about it. I mean, only a couple of people know, literally a couple of people know. Sarah's one of them. And so I got that. And then I have something else that I'm excited about. So that's good. Therapy's going good. So if anybody's wondering, I think it's all tied together, but who knows? And I guess that's it. Yeah. I've been working every day and yeah. It's all
good. All right. Yeah. Well,
still doing a lot of TikTok, still doing a lot of Instagram, but
yeah. So that's good. And then do you have like a time, like you think you might be able to talk about this super secret project?
Wait.
Not for a while, huh?
Today's the end or tomorrow's the end of the month. So probably not by
mid-October.
Mid-October, maybe.
Okay.
Mid-October, yeah. I think I got a couple more weeks to mess around with some stuff, and then I think I can talk about it. But yeah, I don't really want to say anything yet until I've actually finished it.
Yeah,
I mean, I just want to finish because if I don't, again,
I totally understand.
I don't know what that is in my brain. I mean, it must be an ADHD. No, but if I talk about it, it's like I've done it, and
it's the same thing.
I get that dopamine hit, and so I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'll move on.
It's the same thing. You don't use when you talk about your books. If you talk about scenes and stuff, yeah, I get it. So
anyway,
well, something to look forward to. That's an open loop for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, hopefully. So yeah, let us see you on Tuesdays and Thursdays in our spring. We love that. And
we don't have any text messages this week, but I was just going to throw out there a question. What is your biggest struggle? Because I don't know if you saw the stats on the last episode, but it got a lot of downloads, the Reader Magnet one. And so I thought maybe there's things that people would like us to talk about or topics or something. So let us know if you have something you want us to tackle as a episode, just let us know. Send us a text.
I mean, like if you're like me, I'm like, how long you got as far as your biggest struggles? But I'm sure you guys are much more together than me. But yeah, if it's something you want us to talk about or find somebody to talk about it, we would love to do that. So
yeah. So let us know.
All right.
Well, here is Melanie. Well, today we are really excited to have Melanie Herschorn with us. Hi, Melanie. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks. Glad to be here.
We are glad you're here, even though I think you said you were a little under the weather. So we really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Melanie is on a mission to empower authors to share their message with the world. Her comprehensive background of over 20 years as a celebrity publicist, award-winning journalist in radio, print, and TV, as well as a clothing designer and an entrepreneur, Melanie is uniquely positioned to support authors and make a big impact with their book. Her new book, Make a Big Impact with Your Book, is available now.
That's awesome. Tell us how you got started working with writers.
It was totally not linear. It was a very circuitous situation. As you read in my bio just now, I started out in celebrity PR 20 years ago, and then I moved into journalism. I got a master's degree, and I worked in radio and print and TV. And then I moved to Phoenix, and I realized that I could pay a babysitter more to watch my baby than I would be earning as a journalist. So I decided to do something else, which was sort of make a left turn and design and manufacture breastfeeding clothing.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's quite a change.
Yeah.
It was. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I Googled and I figured it out. And I ended up selling my clothes on Nordstrom.com and on Amazon and boutiques. And then in year 7, I hired somebody to help me with my marketing. And she was toxic. So she belittled me every day, and I paid her lots of money. And at the end of the year, I said, that's it. I got to close this business. So I did. And then I sort of went, well, what now? The thing that I could see as the through line of my career was always helping elevate people's voices. making people feel special, empowering them, and giving them a stage, basically.
Right.
So it was sort of a natural progression to start working with authors because they have their brilliance. It's in a book, but as you know, if nobody knows about the book, then no one's going to buy it. No one's going to read
Correct.
it. So, and I find that, well, the reason that the authors that I work with, we only include, it has to be a writing, publishing, marketing package that's all in one. There is no just publishing the book. I won't do that because then you won't get a result. You won't get a return on your investment.
Right.
That's such an interesting path to where you are now. And since you're an author yourself, one of our questions is, do you have any aspirations to write? So obviously you do. You have your own book out. So tell us a little bit about your book. And do you have any aspirations to write fiction at any time, since most of our authors are fiction writers?
So I appreciate fiction writers, but I am just too news-oriented, nonfiction-oriented. I do read very occasionally fiction, but here's what happens. I read at night before I go to bed. Nonfiction helps me fall asleep. Fiction keeps me awake.
Yeah. You turn in those pages.
Like last night when I started reading the second book in a series by an author I really like. And then I was like 6 chapters in and I'm like, I really need to go to sleep. I want to know what happens. In a nonfiction book, I don't have that problem that I want to know what happens. So that's why I really gravitate toward those. However, So I have my book and it's very much nonfiction. There should be no elements of fiction in that book. I really hope. And that's, helping authors make a big impact with their book. Generally speaking, nonfiction, but there are applications for all authors in general about content marketing and stuff like that. I don't have any aspirations to write fiction because I honestly think that real life is wilder than anything I could come up with.
It's pretty wild. It's especially these days. It's pretty wild. Well, what do you wish authors knew about publicizing their books?
I wish they knew that it has to be an ongoing, never-ending situation.
Oh, sorry, I snorted, but you're right.
It is not I posted about it one time last year. And for some reason, people aren't buying my book. I can't figure out why.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. And when you feel like you're a broken record, that's when the magic happens and people start to say, hey, you wrote a book about some, fancy mermaids. And people are like, yes, you wrote that book, right? And that's when it works. When people start calling you out of the blue because they remember that you have this book, that's when your marketing's working.
Right. So authors should not think, oh, I've already talked about this, right? We should keep talking about it, right?
Just like it's the first time every time. It's like a million first dates.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's such a great way to put it.
When you came into the author world, was there anything you wish you'd known about working with authors in general?
You have to think outside the box a little bit. So let's say you have a book about, I keep coming back to mermaids, but now let's move on to pirates. You have a book about pirates, okay? And you can't just keep publishing paragraphs from your book because there's no context, right? So try to think a little bit bigger. What are some of the themes that are in your book? So maybe your book, yes, it's about pirates, but it's really about, a coming of age. I'm thinking of like a play that I've seen, it's a coming of age of a man who becomes a pirate and, great things happen. So what are some of the things that you could talk about that would help potential readers relate to the story? Maybe there's a news article. Something happens in the real world that you can relate back to your book and how your characters are impacted by something that is exactly the same as what happened in real life.
Right.
Or maybe Taylor Swift does something. or she sings a lyric and and you happen to have something similar in your book. Tie it all back, because we're always, as humans, constantly looking for connections. We're trying to make connections between in our world. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is like giant jets flying over it.
Can't hear it, so we're good.
Okay. So we're always trying to make connections within our world and to make sense of things. So when you can invoke Taylor Swift or invoke Beyonce, which I did that recently. I went into, it was Beyonce's birthday and I was talking about becoming your inner Beyonce. And so it just worked. Do I write about Beyonce in any of my books? No, I don't. But it's when you can keep things topical and timely that you're going to really see the movement in your marketing.
That's great. Well, so what do you see authors doing that they think will move the needle, or because they see other people doing it, but it doesn't have they're wasting their time and money?
Oh gosh, where do we start? So a lot of authors believe that, having a book signing is the only way to sell books. That's not always the case. They believe that if their book is in a bookstore in the middle of some teeny tiny town in some teeny tiny place, that's going to make a difference. But it's not. It's really about the relationships that you build and the community that you grow around you. That's how you're going to make the difference. Sometimes authors think that if they share a lot about their book, they're giving it all away and no one will read it. Now, of course, that's generally more in the nonfiction space, but if you give away the plot, I mean, obviously I wouldn't want to no spoilers here, but if you give away the plot, no one's going to want to read. Well, no, people read the back of your book. That's how they determine whether they're going to pick it up or not.
Right.
And, we all judge books by their covers.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you were saying that we're always trying to make connections. So if someone reads that or hears the blurb of your book or the plot-ish of your book, then we can make a connection to a feeling. Oh, I like the feeling that gave me, or that reminds me of this other thing that I really like, this show that I really like, or this movie that I really like, or a song that I really like. And then it creates interest and buzz that way. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. The book signing thing, God bless. I mean, there are big signings that a lot of romance authors, I'm in that genre, do, and they do make money, but the majority of book signings, even for successful authors, is a loss. I mean, we do it because we want to connect with readers, not because we're going to make money on a signing. So, yeah.
Well, what are some of the things that you would suggest people do instead of signings? Or maybe they want to do their signing in their hometown or whatever, but in addition to that, what other marketing things would you suggest to get the word out about the books?
Okay. So if you want to speak on a topic, maybe you want to speak to the craft of writing. Maybe you specialize in science fiction and you have a background in science. There are so many ways to, get on a stage. I would also recommend going on podcasts like this one's with you, because not only am I now getting to share about myself, but because you invited me on, you just elevated my status. Here now, I'm coming on as an expert author. So leveraging other people's audiences is a really great thing to do. And, you want to get on the news and you don't know why, how can I, as a fiction author, get on my local news? Well, there's got to be a fiction author appreciation day, or maybe it's, September 19th, Talk Like a Pirate Day, and your book's about pirates. Whatever it is, local news shows are always looking for local guests that they could fill in. You wrote a book, so you're an expert in being an author. So how much fun would that be? And that's another great way to make book sales.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. What are the most common mistakes you see authors making?
Oh, I think we've kind of covered a lot of those, but I will say the launch trauma is a real thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, and it's like the rocket ship goes up and then it falls in the ocean. So not focusing so much on the launch and only launch and thinking more long term. That is the best way to keep going and to build that momentum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mindset change that you have to make, right? That it's not all this like 2 weeks and then life is over if it doesn't go well, right? Because your book is new to somebody who hasn't found it, even if it's not new on the shelf, right?
100%. And, unless I cannot think of a fiction book that would go out of style unless it's, well, all the books that are getting banned for various interesting reasons. But if it's a fantasy fiction book that is not offending anyone, you could talk about that for years to come. Why not? And even if it is offending somebody, you'll still find an audience because you shouldn't try to be writing for everybody. You're going to have your specific niche and just serve them.
Right. Yeah. I think that is a big mistake that I see a lot of authors making, is trying to cast too big a net. You really want your book in front of the exact right readers. You do not want your self-help book in front of readers who have no interest in helping themselves, or you know what I'm saying, or your science fiction book in front of romance readers or people who do not read any sort of fiction. Like, that is a recipe for disaster and disappointment, frankly. And so I think that, that's a huge mistake that a lot of authors make.
And it's not just authors. As business owners, we often make that too.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have that. When I worked in marketing, people would say, well, I sell skincare. And I'd say, so who's your ideal audience? And they would say, everyone with skin.
And you're like, no,
it's not. It's not everyone with skin. And, that's not something I often struggle with clients because they're like, it's for. And I'm saying, it's really not for everyone. We have to narrow it down. And, when I had my nursing wear company, my first business plan that I wrote, I researched it and I saw that 4 million women give birth in the United States every year. So therefore, I have 4 million potential customers. Except, no, that's totally wrong. So it's that we feel like we just want to help everybody, but by helping a specific niche, you're actually going to do a much better job.
Yeah.
Because they're going to eat up what you've written and they're going to share it with their friends. And that's how you grow, as opposed to just casting, like you said, that wide net and catching nothing.
Yeah. Well, for the people you've worked with that have been successful and done well, particularly like over the long term, what do you see that they're doing that maybe we could emulate?
Well, a lot of it is not giving up. Not thinking, well, I wrote my book 3 years ago, so I should probably stop now. It's embarrassing. Like, no, you keep talking about it. And, but what makes you successful is sticking with it, having a plan for marketing so that you are always putting out content that is resonating with your intended reader, and leveraging other people's audiences, such as this.
Right.
So never just putting all your eggs in one basket. Always, you can do giveaways and collaborations with other authors. I mean, how cool would it be for like National Book Day to get together with other authors who are in your genre and doing a giveaway with like 10 books, leveraging everybody's audiences and growing yours at the same time. I mean, that's easy.
Yeah.
Well, so, like, do you advocate building newsletter list or email list and things like that?
100%. I don't like calling newsletters because that's boring. But yes, having email an email list is very important because we are literally just parking our cars in the Meta parking lot and hoping that we don't get towed. Right. We don't own our followers. We can be shut down at any moment.
Right.
So ideally, you are growing your email list. And a great way to do that is to have a free resource or something free that you can build with. Now, I will caution you against setting the first chapter of your book as a lead magnet because that doesn't work. It may have worked 20 years ago. It does not work now. Mm-hmm. So with fiction, it's a little trickier than with nonfiction because, it could actually so I was speaking at an event this past weekend and I kind of got into it with this gentleman who would not see reason when I suggested that for a lead magnet, it's very possible that it can be something that a person can apply to their real life. It doesn't have to be about the book specifically. Right. So unfortunately for him, I don't know that he's going to have success. However, for everybody else who is actually, amenable to doing things that make sense, I would say, what's your book about? Maybe we're back to, I don't know, let's do unicorns now. It's about unicorns. And maybe there's, some interesting thing that happens with unicorns. Somebody thinks they saw a real unicorn. What would that be like? Maybe there's a fun story you could write and have people download that sort of ties back to the book, but it isn't the book. Or maybe it's, a unicorn poster for people who love unicorns. And, here, get this free printable poster just in exchange for your email address. So the sky's really the limit. You just have to be thinking outside of the covers of your book.
Right. Very good. Very good. That's very tangible and something that we can all do. Actually, we've just recently done an episode on lead magnets and stuff, and that's a very good idea. I love that printable sort of thing. You work with a wide range of authors. Do you see any trends right now, like what's hot in nonfiction in particular and fiction?
So because the people that I work with, all of the books, the purpose is to grow their brand. What had been working was the typical how-to self-help books.
Yeah.
But now with ChatGPT, you don't need to write that. That exists already, right? So it's more about creating a potential future, like showing somebody what their future can be in a book to grow the brand.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So a lot of authors do nonfiction about like how to write. And I've seen that trend as well. A lot of the people who created courses and things are taking their courses down. The information is out there, like all you have to do is do a search and you can find a very detailed list of what you need. So that's an interesting switch to think about it. How can you help somebody get to this certain point? More individualized almost, I think.
Absolutely. And what ChatGPT will never be able to do, I don't think, is help you with your mindset.
Right.
And keep you accountable.
Right.
And you can have a conversation with ChatGPT, of course, but it's not a human.
No.
And I think 80% of the communication that we all have with one another is nonverbal.
I think that's probably true. Yeah.
AI is not warm and fuzzy. It's not giving us a hug. So I don't think that piece of it is ever going to go away.
And then I think there's also the component of relationship, like you mentioned a while ago about creating a community. So if you can create a community with your readers, then they're interested in sharing with each other and with you. Then that's something that you can't get from AI either.
Heck no. I mean, it's talk about isolating. I mean, all people do, they go to a restaurant and they're all on their phones.
Even if they're in a group.
That's what I was saying. They're sitting at a table, all looking at their phone. And it's like, that's not communication. That's not community.
Right.
And I think that, we crave community.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
So in your book, what are some examples of how to stand out in a crowd? Like because I mean, what we've experienced, because we've both been doing this now for a while, a long time, is that after 2020, the market really flooded with the indie space in particular is becoming a mature business now, and so it's very flooded. How do you stand out? Like how, especially, as a nonfiction author and as a fiction author, how would you suggest people stand out and get their content out there? I mean,
so it's going to be two sides of the same coin in a way. So the nonfiction side of this coin, you don't necessarily need to stand out to everybody. It's probably just within your industry. And so having that book and sending it to potential clients, that's how you're going to stand out.
Okay.
With fiction, obviously it's different. You're trying to sell the book, not product based on the book. Not that you can't, you absolutely could. So standing out, I think it's that community piece. I really do. If you build, I mean, there's so many authors that have like extra content on Patreon.
Right.
It's creating that community around your characters, around the themes of your books. So people want to belong. I've been reading way too many books about this, by the way. People want to, I told you I read nonfiction every night. So except last night. People want to belong. They want to feel like they are part of something bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you can have your unicorn community where, and I don't mean that metaphorically unicorn, I mean like an actual unicorn community where everybody loves unicorns and they all feel like, oh, I'm a unicorn. And they read all the books about unicorns. And, we don't just read one author's work ever. So if you love some sort of fiction genre, you're going to find other books about it too. I mean, people who are readers don't just stop at one author, just like we don't just listen to one podcast or, we like to develop our knowledge or so if you are creating a community where we're not saying that you have to be accessible to them 24/7, not like that, but just where people feel like they have a space to belong. I think that goes a long way and helps you stand out from all the other people who are trying to do all the same things that everybody else is. When you start seeing everybody dancing on TikTok, it just we get desensitized to it.
Yeah.
So if you can find ways to make yourself look different from what everyone else is doing, that's how you're going to stand out.
That's more memorable.
Right. So who would be the ideal reader for your book? Like your new book?
I would say the ideal reader is a nonfiction author who they've probably written the book already and they haven't seen a lot of traction with it and they just don't know what to do.
Okay.
It is, I mean, it's also, my goal is to inspire people who have written books to keep going.
Right. Yeah.
Because I really believe that we can be our own worst enemies. I'm my own worst boss that I've ever had. I'm recovering bad boss. And it's so easy to get stuck in our heads because being an author is kind of a lonely thing. I mean, you with your laptop and your brain, which can be very noisy, but it can be often very negative. So having, even if it's a book that can just sort of cheer you along, that's kind of my goal with this.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. And so if an author comes to you, how do you help them create a plan? Do you take into account social media and like publishing schedules? How do you work with authors?
So in general, what we do is we can help them go from writing through publishing to marketing. But if somebody comes to me just for marketing, I will take them through a process, a framework that I created that really encompasses everything. So the messaging is really the key piece. What are you saying to people? And then the social media and the email and the lead magnet, and then moving into being part of other people's audiences, and how to get book reviews for your book, because those are very important to have. People don't to buy books if it doesn't have any reviews, or if it has one review from your uncle.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Well, what would you say is the best thing you've done to set yourself up for success
in my life ever?
Yeah. In your businesses and in your life. Yeah.
Gonna sound silly, but it's mindset work.
I don't think that's silly at all.
So we totally understand that.
Okay. I was gonna say, I mean, it's because maybe, like work with this coach, or, like buy this thing. But no, it was get out of my own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a real breakthrough last summer where I realized that I had this story that I had been repeating over and over to myself for 44 years.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my goodness, this is not me. This is my dad.
Yeah.
And I was able to take it away and out of my head.
Oh, that's so great.
And thank you. And I think that really was the biggest moment that I have had thus far, as to break through the ceiling of my own ceiling.
Yeah. A lot of times we build our own ceilings that we have a hard time getting through.
Yes.
True. It's so true.
Well, tell everyone where they can find out about you and your book.
Great. Absolutely. You can find everything at yourbigimpactbook.com.
Very good.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for being here, and we will have those links in the show notes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we will see everybody next week. Bye.
All right. Bye.